On June 26, 2020, Karen Garner, a 73-year-old woman suffering from dementia and sensory aphasia, was stopped by Walmart employees after she left the store without paying for items worth approximately $14. Video footage captured Miss Garner walking out of the store with the items in her hands, and she was soon brought back inside by the employees. Subsequently, Miss Garner attempted to pay for the items, but Walmart employees refused her service and asked her to leave immediately. Compliance with their request, Miss Garner left the store. However, one of the Walmart employees contacted the Loveland Police Department to report the alleged theft. A few minutes later, Officer Austin Hoop responded to the call and located Miss Garner as she was walking home after the incident. Officer Hoop parked his patrol car behind her and approached to stop her. Unfortunately, the situation escalated negatively. Officer Hoop failed to effectively communicate with Miss Garner, and he resorted to violently throwing her to the ground in an attempt to place her in handcuffs. This action was unjustified, as Miss Garner displayed no signs of being a threat to Officer Hoop and did not attempt to flee. Instead, she continued walking, which did not warrant such a forceful takedown. In fact, Officer Hoop's approach appeared misplaced from the beginning as he asked the visibly confused Miss Garner an unnecessary question. Do you need to be arrested right now?
Do you need to be arrested right now? No. Okay. Let's stop.
After successfully placing Miss Garner in handcuffs, Officer Hoop proceeded to guide her back to the patrol car. Unfortunately, during this process, he continued to employ excessive force on her and attempted to insinuate that she had been engaged in a physical altercation with him.
Why are you fighting with me? And why are you trying to slip the cuffs off?
I'm going home.
The video from the officer's body camera proved to be beyond a reasonable doubt that Miss Garner and Officer Hoop never came close to a physical altercation. It's obvious that Officer Hoop didn't need to use so much force to keep a 73-year-old woman in custody. In addition, it's important to highlight that Officer Hoop apparently did not take into account the detainee's mental state, which is a significant issue. Officer Hoop obviously disregarded the legal requirement that police use their discretion to determine whether or not a suspect is mentally competent.
I'm going home. I'm going home.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to search her.
As if the force employed by one cop wasn't already severe, a second confrontation broke out as cop Daria Jalali arrived to aid Officer Hoop, resulting in Miss Garner being taken to the ground again. Both officers proceeded to secure Miss Garner inside the patrol car, despite her repeated statements that she was simply trying to go home. Officer Hoop responded to her pleas with a dismissive laugh, stating, "No, you're not," in a mocking manner.
You have to use that much aggression?
What are you doing? Get out of here. This is not your business.
Once again, Hoop's negligent demeanor became evident as he dealt with the situation. While Officer Hoop moved to the other side of the patrol car to secure Miss Garner, a Good Samaritan emerged from his vehicle and approached Officer Hoop, questioning the necessity of using aggression against an elderly woman.
What's your date of birth, Karen? What's your date of birth? Okay.
The young man had witnessed the entire incident unfold from a distance and decided to drive up to the scene. Officer Hoop, displaying further negligence, dismissed the young man's concerns, instructing him to leave as it was none of his business. Following a brief confrontation, Officer Hoop returned to assisting Officer Jolly in securing Miss Garner. Once they successfully placed Miss Garner inside the patrol car, Officer Hoop attempted to identify her by asking for her date of birth. However, he received no response, indicating Miss Garner was unable to provide the requested information. Given Miss Garner's disability, it is unsurprising that she would encounter difficulties understanding Officer Hoop's demands, let alone recalling her date of birth. Both officers appeared to overlook the possibility of Miss Garner having a disability, despite it becoming increasingly evident by that point. Shortly after, the officers engaged in a casual conversation, during which Officer Jalali expressed her concerns for Officer Hoop, stating that she would have arrived more quickly if he had mentioned a physical altercation.
200. Yeah, okay.
All right,
Hey.
let's get her down the station.
Okay, we don't need to wait for the fellow.
No, we can see what it, I
Okay.
mean, we know what's it said.
She stole some stuff, and they caught her before she left and got it back, and then she ran out. So we have
And then
the...
you contacted her for that.
And then she resisted and
obstructed and
obstructed.
resisted, so
We're good either way.
we're good either way.
Cool.
She's going.
All right.
Let's get a blue pass. If they decide not to prosecute, I don't care.
Cool. Okay, we'll head down there.
Officer Hoop responded to Officer Jalali's concerns by making remarks about Miss Garner, commenting that she was like 20 pounds, and implying that the situation would have been different if it had involved a larger individual. This statement indicates that Officer Hoop was well aware of Miss Garner's fragile state as an elderly woman, yet he still exhibited excessive aggression toward her. The situation becomes even more questionable when both officers display uncertainty about the potential charges against Miss Gardner. Officer Jalali appears to have no understanding of what Miss Gardner could have done wrong initially. Sergeant Phil Metzler, the fourth responding officer, informs Officer Hoop that Miss Garner would be charged with resisting arrest and obstruction, regardless of whether or not Walmart decided to press charges. Immediately following the incident, Officer Hoop, Officer Jalali, and Community Service Officer Tyler Blackett were captured by a police station surveillance camera engaging in laughter and joking while watching the footage of the arrest from Officer Hoop's body camera. On May 19, 2021, the Colorado 8th Judicial District Critical Response Team completed an investigation into the incident, leading to the filing of criminal charges against Officer Hoop and Officer Jalali. Officer Hoop faced 3 charges, including assault. However, on March 2, 2022, Officer Hoop pleaded guilty to a single charge of second-degree assault, classified as a Class 4 felony. Consequently, he received a 5-year prison sentence. Meanwhile, Officer Jalali pleaded guilty to 1 count of failure to intervene in Larimer County District Court in June of the same year. As a result, she was sentenced to 45 days in jail and placed under 36 months of probation. However, despite the clarification provided by Mr. Hodges when he displayed his cane from his back pocket to Deputy Goad, she continued to pursue him. It became evident that Deputy Goad lacked probable cause to detain Mr. Hodges, as her suspicion of him carrying a firearm was disproven.
What's this in your back pocket? I saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aids. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes,
I'm
sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable,
Do you want me to put you in
suspicion?
handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
Have
have
you
to.
ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be a dick to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir, I'm
Have a
doing my
good day.
job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are.
Nevertheless, Deputy Goad proceeded to inform Mr. Hodges that he was being detained and demanded his identification, asking for his name and date of birth. Mr. Hodges questioned the necessity of providing his personal information, stating that he had not committed any crime. In response, he requested the presence of Deputy Goad's supervisor, who coincidentally arrived at that moment.
Sir, what did you stop for? For a walking stick.
So-
And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to present it, okay? Now she's asking me for ID. Okay. I don't need the ID unless there's reasonable articulated suspicion that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime, or about to do a crime.
Sergeant Randy Harrison approached Mr. Hodges and promptly inquired about the reason for Deputy Goad's initial stop. Mr. Hodges explained the circumstances to Sergeant Harrison, who in turn demanded identification from Mr. Hodges as well.
You were armed, okay, and she's asking you for your ID. Well, now she has verified that I am not armed, okay? So there is no problem. You have your ID or not? I do have my ID, but you don't need it, okay? Okay?
Initially, Deputy Goad may have possessed a reasonable suspicion to stop Mr. Hodges if she genuinely believed that the item protruding from his back pocket was a firearm. However, once it became unequivocally evident that Mr. Hodges was not carrying any firearms, any further detainment would be considered unlawful. Despite this realization, Deputy Goad and her supervisor, Sergeant Harrison, collaborated to handcuff Mr. Hodges and conduct a search of his pockets. Mr. Hodges requested the names and badge numbers of both officers, but neither of them responded to his demand.
Wallet.
Where's your wallet at, sir? I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your ID? In my pocket. Which pocket? You are not allowed to search me.
It's in this pocket.
There you go.
Thank you.
It is important to note that throughout the ordeal, the officers did not show any concern regarding the cane that initiated the encounter. The cane remained in Mr. Hodges' back pocket during the entire confrontation, and neither of the two officers displayed any interest in it, even when Mr. Hodges pulled it out in front of them. This further emphasizes that the cane was never the underlying issue. The officers had other, seemingly trivial reasons to detain Mr. Hodges. After engaging in back-and-forth communication over the police radio, Deputy Goad approached Mr. Hodges once again, attempting to assert unnecessary authority and further escalate the situation. She questioned him, asking if it was challenging for him to comply.
Are you legally blind? Yes, I am. Okay. I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty. which was canceled. But you're using your stick. You don't have to use a stick all the time? Not all the time.
Mr. Hodges was arrested and charged with resisting without violence, as indicated by jail records that show his booking at 8:25 a.m. that morning. He was released 26 hours later. 2 days following his release, Mr. Hodges submitted a records request for the body camera footage on November 7, 2022. The viral video that circulated clearly demonstrated that Mr. Hodges had not engaged in any actions warranting arrest. An arrest report authored by Deputy Goad, she stated that James had violated Florida Statute 843.02 by obstructing an ongoing investigation. According to her report, Mr. Hodges repeatedly refused to allow identification of the object in his pocket and declined to provide his ID. However, the body camera footage contradicted her account, showing that Mr. Hodges promptly and willingly presented the object from his pocket to both officers. Miss Odom's claims that Mr. Clark had assaulted her resulted in a bloody altercation turned out to be unfounded. When the officers arrived at the scene, there was no evidence of blood or visible injuries. Moreover, had the officers requested a background check on Miss Odom, they would have discovered her extensive history of encounters with the law. This included a 2016 conviction for fraud in the first degree, multiple felony charges of aggravated domestic assault, and even an attempted murder charge, which she apparently remained influenced by. The actions taken by Officers Hanning and Summers demonstrated a clear neglect of the usual protocols during the encounter.
I literally just saw banged on the door, or through the wall. Bam, 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 and I'm sleeping. Shut the f*** up!
They seemed to accept Miss Odom's account without questioning her, despite the evident fact that she was intoxicated and lacked clarity. After speaking with Miss Odom and Mr. Braden, the officers proceeded to approach Mr. Clark, who resided next door. Following a few knocks on Mr. Clark's door, he opened it while holding a collectible sawfish snout sword, which had been a gift from his late brother-in-law. Mr. Clark had retrieved the sword with the sole intention of self-defense, expecting a confrontation with Miss Odom rather than the arrival of police attempting to resolve the matter. Given the circumstances, Mr. Clark was entirely justified in opening the door with a weapon in hand, as the officers had not identified themselves as law enforcement, a requirement mandated by law prior to such encounters. Despite the situation de-escalating when Mr. Clark complied by placing the weapon on a shelf and facing the officers, Officer Hanning made an attempt to tackle him by kicking his leg and punching his head. It was apparent at this point that Mr. Clark did not pose a threat to the officers. Officer Hanning had sufficient time and opportunity to detain Mr. Clark after he had put away the sword. However, instead of doing so, Officer Hanning retreated and proceeded to draw his firearm. Mr. Clark, remaining motionless with his hands clearly visible, demonstrated that he held nothing that could potentially harm anyone.
What do you want? What the fuck?
It was at this moment that Officer Hanning, without providing any warning, aimed his taser at Mr. Clark's stomach and discharged it. It's important to note the conflicting demands issued by the two officers. Officer Hanning instructed Mr. Clark to walk into the hallway, while Officer Summers simultaneously told him to get on the ground. As Mr. Clark fell backward, his head made contact with a chair, rendering him unconscious. The situation worsened when both officers attempted to move Mr. Clark's body outside, resulting in his head striking the corner of a shelf, which caused a laceration on his head. Furthermore, Officer Hanning employed unnecessary force by placing his knee on Mr. Clark's neck while restraining him with handcuffs. Reports indicated that his knee restraint led to an injury to Mr. Clark's carotid artery, necessitating surgical intervention for treatment. It is notable that this particular knee restraint has been associated with several fatalities in the past. As Officer Summers attended to Mr. Clark in an attempt to revive him, Officer Hanning had a different agenda.
Get out here right now! Get out here!
Get
on the ground!
No. They hit that wall so hard, I thought they were going to come through the wall.
He re-entered Mr. Clark's apartment and took hold of the sword that had been placed on top of the shelf. The reasoning behind Officer Hanning's actions may have been unclear at first, but it became evident with his subsequent actions. Officer Hanning positioned the sword approximately 5 feet away from where Mr. Clark lay unconscious, creating the illusion that Mr. Clark had walked out of his apartment wielding the sword with the intent to attack the officers. Following the use of unlawful force, Mr. Clark was swiftly transported to the hospital, where tests for drugs or alcohol came back negative. His initial vital signs indicated the possibility of heart-related complications, and he required stitches for a head wound. Within 24 hours of the incident, Mr. Clark developed a blood clot in his injured carotid artery and began vomiting blood. Additionally, 12 hours later, he suffered a stroke. Approximately 48 hours after being discharged, Mr. Clark found himself readmitted to the hospital due to complications arising from the initial surgery. Consequently, Mr. Clark pursued legal action and reached a settlement agreement with the Idaho Springs Police Department amounting to a remarkable sum of $7 million. This record-breaking payout exceeds the settlement awarded to Karen Garner in September 2021. In April 2023, Officer Scott Harrell, a 4-year veteran of the Texas City Police Department, allegedly initiated a traffic stop after observing a vehicle speeding and cutting through parking spaces at a gas station. Officer Harrell approached Christopher Scholl, the driver, and informed him about the alleged violations. Scholl denied any wrongdoing, stating that he was not speeding, that he regularly took the direct path through the parking lot to the gas pumps. Despite Scholl's compliance and explanation, Officer Harrell accused him of disregarding traffic control devices and threatened to issue a citation.
Before I'm stepping out of traffic, buddy. Don't walk up to my car, please. What? Don't walk up to my car, please. Hey, man, you can't drive through the parking lot like that. You got your driver's license insurance? Any weapons in the car I need to worry about? Oh, man. Ford, did you catch my trap?
Yes, sir. Have you on the traffic here, bud?
Robert John Lincoln, 4732. Robert John Lincoln, 472. Chief, traffic 27.
Thanks.
1441 65 88 1441 65 88. Is there any particular reason why you felt you needed to come through the parking lot like that?
I didn't think I did anything wrong. I just came over to get gas.
You were speeding and you cut through parking spaces. No, you can't do that.
It's just going to be confirmed on Robert.
I didn't think I was doing anything, man.
I mean, you
all
walked
I'm doing
around.
is coming to get gas.
Yeah. Oh, are we gonna go back and forth, or are you just gonna?
You asked me the question. You want me to answer it or not? I'm not.
Okay.
If anything, I thought I was going even slower than normal.
No, sir.
Because normally people don't even park where you park, and that's the direct path to the gas pumps.
Through the parking spaces is the direct.
I do realize that. I know that there's parking spaces there.
And you almost hit that car that was turning right there. I was watching, man.
The traffic stop was initiated on private property, and Texas law generally does not enforce traffic laws in parking lots, driveways, or alleys. Therefore, it can be argued that Mr. Scholl was unlawfully detained by Officer Harrell.
Hey, Ford.
Go ahead.
I think so. Okay,
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the officer asked the man to show his license and checked it within his system if there was anything suspicious, but everything was clean.
So,
I'm not kidding you either, man. I come here every day, dude.
look, I'm not.
I send pictures of my wife the price of the gas here every day when I come through.
Okay, look.
So, anyway.
Here's the deal, man. Okay, I'm not gonna go back and forth and all that. I'm not gonna write you tickets, but the only reason I'm not writing you tickets is because I'm out of tickets right now. Okay, otherwise you would be receiving a citation.
For what? What would be the citation? I'm just curious.
Disregarding traffic control device.
On private property?
Yes.
Okay.
You still can't do that. It's still illegal.
Okay.
During the interaction, Officer Harrell demonstrated a power trip, unlawfully detaining Mr. Scholl and making false accusations against him. Despite Mr. Scholl's attempts to de-escalate the situation, Officer Harrell persisted in his aggressive behavior. Nevertheless, Officer Harrell continued to escalate the situation by accusing Scholl of reckless driving and threatening to arrest him. Eventually, Officer Harrell arrested Mr. Scholl, claiming he believed Scholl would continue to engage in unsafe behavior in the future.
I was sitting right there, and he came through the parking lot and cut through all the spaces. He came through so fast and whooped into here, and there was a white truck. The white truck had to slam on its brakes. So I come over here. I was just going to be like, hey, man, chill out. Like, chill out. Don't be like that. But he wanted to go back and forth and argue with me and give me all kinds of stuff. And, like, I didn't have any tickets, and I didn't grab a rider this morning. So I was like, man, look, it doesn't have to go this way. He kept going back and forth, so I was like, all right, let's go.
Another officer arrived at the scene, and Officer Harrell recounted the situation, portraying himself as the victim and Mr. Scholl as the aggressor. However, Officer Harrell realized his misconduct and decided to handle the situation differently. He cited Mr. Scholl for disregarding traffic control devices and allowed him to leave.
What motorcycle did you see?
Anything? Boy, Scholl's no longer in custody. Okay, I see you sign right here, it's not a Mr. Guild. Mr. Scholl is no longer in custody. It's not an admission of guilt, it's just a promise you'll contact the court on or before the date and time that's written on here. You can contact the court at the bottom here, the information's there, and also up there. Free to go, sir.
Following the incident, Officer Harrell was placed on administrative duty and is under investigation by the Internal Affairs Department. The Texas City Police Department has strict policies against violating individuals' rights during encounters. Chief Joe Stanton announced that the results of the investigation will be made public once a final disposition is reached. Mr. Scholl, who considers himself pro-police, viewed the traffic stop as unjustified and a violation of his rights. He plans to take the case to trial and is considering civil action against the department. He has set up a GoFundMe campaign to cover legal fees for the potential lawsuit. And now let's move to another video. In a recent encounter involving the Cleveland Heights Police Department, a female officer was observed recklessly pulling in front of another vehicle while conducting a traffic stop. The driver of the other vehicle, who narrowly avoided an accident, began recording the incident on his mobile phone.
1 second.
A1 Rio, stand by. It's going to be on Mayfield across from the first access road. Send me another unit because another party does not know how to yield to lights and sirens, and he's sitting here recording me. Say that I'm looking at him off the road.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm
Okay. I'm Officer Lewis with Cleveland Heights. The reason I'm for the traffic stop is the plates on the vehicle are expired.
Yeah,
Not even a big deal. Do you know that guy behind me in the Porsche?
I was trying to hurry up and move over.
You're good. No, you're good. You did the right thing. I'm put my lights out and sirens. He did not move over.
As the officer stepped out of her patrol vehicle, the officer expressed his concern over the near collision. The officer instructed the driver to wait while she proceeded with the traffic stop. However, the driver patiently parked behind the patrol vehicle and continued recording. The officer initially admitted her mistake and apologized to the driver, but during their conversation, she suddenly changed her stance, blaming the driver for her own errors.
Apologize.
You almost ran me off the road.
I initiated my lights and
I didn't hear
sirens.
anything.
What, was your music on? Because I had the lights and sirens on, sir.
You apologize.
I apologize.
You're wrong.
He stopped
I'ma let it
abruptly.
go.
Okay, I'm not wrong. The lights and sirens were activated.
You ran me
Okay,
off the road.
I did not
almost.
do that, sir. The lights and sirens
So
on
what
my
do you apologize
marked
for?
patrol because he stopped abruptly, causing me to stop
And I almost
abruptly,
caused an
causing
accident.
you to stop abruptly.
Right.
And I apologize for that. However, the lights and sirens were on. Okay, the police vehicle is marked. You can clearly see it's a marked
next to
patrol
me, man.
vehicle. I initiated lights and
I don't
sirens.
wanna argue with
I'm
you.
not going to argue, and I'm telling you I do. I'm going to tell you I do apologize that
Right.
he did stop
But I'm
abruptly.
going to tell you the disconnect.
Nobody was
I'm
wrong.
going to tell you the disconnect, right? So between the public and you as a public
You want
servant,
me to just that driver check, okay?
if it's something wrong and you actually
Yeah.
get it, all you say, my bad, I'm
And
sorry,
I did. I just
and
said,
keep going.
I said my bad. I said, I initiated a traffic stop in a marked vehicle with lights and sirens.
Right.
If you didn't hear the sirens or see the lights,
I mean, you called back up to your place, but
well, I called back up because somebody is getting out of a cop car.
The situation escalated when the officer called for backup and her supervisor, a sergeant, arrived at the scene. The sergeant immediately confronted the driver, accusing him of obstructing and interfering with the traffic stop despite not being present during the initial interaction. The sergeant failed to articulate if the driver was being detained or not, but he continued to escalate the situation.
you called back up for your safety, but
Well, you don't pull up behind an officer on a traffic stop.
you don't even know what's going on.
You're right, I don't.
So why are you saying that?
Because I'm here and what you're doing right now is against the
You almost
law.
ran me off the road.
Okay, well then you should have pulled over for lights and sirens. She said it on the radio that you didn't yield. And it's on dash cam, I'm assuming.
Just a disconnect, man.
Sir,
I'll tell you what, let her finish her business and then we can sit down and talk like
we're good.
adults.
I'm going to let him go. We're good. I'm going to let him go.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry. What was your last name?
My last name?
Yeah.
Why you need my last name?
Because I'm asking who I'm talking to. You asked me who you were talking to.
Well, now you're going to be under arrest because what you're doing is illegal.
Listen.
What you're doing is illegal. I can charge you for interfering with
Just give me your last name.
Why?
Because I'm conducting business with you right
I'm
now.
not being detained. Or am I pretty
if you
good?
want to be.
10-4. That's not
That's
going
not
to
how
be
it
the
works.
driver.
What's your RS?
Stand by.
What's your reasonable articulable
Okay.
suspicion of my crime?
I'm going to get rid of him.
Hold on, I'll explain it to you, okay?
Am I being detained?
Right now.
I'm not being detained.
If you want to be.
10-4. That's
No,
not
that's
going
not
to
how
be
it
the
works.
driver.
What's your RS?
Stand by.
My RS?
Reasonable articulable
Okay.
suspicion of my
Okay,
crime.
here,
I'm gonna get
first,
rid of
okay, hold on. I'll explain it to you, okay? Doing what you're doing right now.
No, sir, she almost ran me off the road.
Okay. Again, you didn't yield to lights and siren. You came
She
out.
was next to me and stopped and almost ran me off the
Okay,
What are you talking
okay,
about?
listen to me. You asked my reasonable articulable suspicion. It's not a
I'm not
probable
under
cause.
arrest. If you arrest me, you violate my right.
I don't want to arrest you. We have to
You're
ID
going to
you.
violate my rights. That's what you're going to
Okay,
do?
we have to ID you. You understand that? Yes, we do.
All right, I'm going to videotape it.
Okay, we got you on camera
I'm
too.
going to call, then come get the car. You're violating my rights.
Who's getting what car?
They can come, you're going to arrest
Radio,
me,
another
right?
car here. I got a male who's obstructing.
No, I'm not.
And he's refusing to identify himself.
Road.
So I'll take a report on it, but I need your ID.
No.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with her.
The driver explained what had transpired to the sergeant, but both officers insisted on obtaining his identification, even though no crime had been committed. The sergeant eventually handcuffed the driver, alleging obstruction and interference.
Listen,
Right.
I'm asking you to identify yourself so I can let my dispatcher know who I'm out with. If you don't identify yourself, that is obstruction. You are the one that came
Obstruction
out.
is a secondary crime.
It's
What crime did I commit?
There's no crime, but I'm
So there's no crime, I don't
I'm
need to
identifying
identify.
you. Okay.
Thank-
I need your driver license.
Look, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to arrest you if you don't identify yourself.
She just said it was no crime.
It is a
Listen.
crime. Obstructing is a
What
crime.
crime?
Obstructing
You have
is
to
a
legally
crime.
Identify yourself to us.
She almost ran me off the road.
And then I still have to identify you.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call them from the car. You can arrest me.
Okay, turn around. Because
I didn't do anything.
Okay, turn around. Turn around.
I didn't do anything.
Listen, just all
I
you
didn't
have to
do
do
it. I
is
don't have my ID with me.
Okay, what's your
Your
social?
date of birth. That's not what we asked for.
For what?
Because I need to let my dispatcher know. It's not a big deal. Last
What's
name,
wrong with
sir.
you? Kern, man.
Kern.
You know what happened. Why are you letting him
Listen,
do this?
he's a sergeant.
He's violating my rights.
He is not. He
Come here, have a
didn't
seat. We're gonna give you a
identify
ticket when we
yourself.
send you on your way. You have valid driver's license?
Yeah, I do. You violate my rights, man.
Yeah, well, you're getting a ticket for interfering with the fast.
How did I interfere? She almost ran me off the road.
And you could have pulled off and waited and called.
I did wait when she said wait.
You were out here talking to her. Have a seat.
Mr. Kern, just
Don't push me, man.
Have a seat.
Why are you so full of machismo, man?
Dude, have a seat. I'm not putting up in your okay? Have a seat.
What's wrong with you, man?
Have a
I'm
seat.
sitting down.
All the way in.
if he
He's going
checks,
for obstructing. Or he's getting a
you're
ticket
gonna.
for
I
obstructing.
don't.
Is he valid?
I don't know. I'm waiting for the radio to say. What? So this is what happened.
Uh-huh.
That vehicle matched the description of the vehicle from Weird yesterday.
Okay.
I saw it. I initiated a traffic stop.
Okay.
That person, instead of like pulling over, he stopped abruptly.
Okay.
And I'm getting behind him, but he stopped abruptly.
Okay.
This guy was very close to him.
Okay.
And we almost did get into an accident.
Okay.
Because that driver stopped
Did you
so
have your license
abruptly.
siren on?
I did. Yeah.
Gets a ticket for
He,
there's always sounds report about this.
okay.
He's getting a ticket for
Radio, you want to see?
for failing to yield to an emergency vehicle?
Yes, radio, I do. That's why I provided it.
Goes to a Demetrius Raphael Kern, the 37-year-old male. He's valid. That's one.
So he gets a ticket and then he can come to
It,
fight.
listen, I don't feel I need to give him a ticket for that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, then
cool
he
with
goes
just,
for obstructing.
okay. I mean, I'm cool with letting him go. He just didn't understand.
He's in handcuffs.
And he's being a jerk.
He obstructed. He refused.
This was a baseless assumption, as the driver had simply waited on the side of the road until the officer finished her traffic stop. The driver provided his information to the officers, although he was not legally required to do so. The sergeant's behavior demonstrated an unjustified power trip, while the first officer seemed to acknowledge her mistake and attempted to rectify it.
You got a lawsuit
Mr. Kern,
coming.
just hang on. Just
You got a lawsuit coming.
Listen, let me explain to you. You don't get out of the car yet. The sergeant wants me to give you a ticket for obstruction, okay? I'm not going to do anything else.
I didn't.
Listen, he's the boss. He is the boss.
I don't have to refuse if I didn't commit a crime. This isn't a stop and ID state.
At this point, it is a traffic stop because you're
You
out on a
almost ran me
traffic
off
stop.
the road.
Mr.
You
Kern,
know
we
it.
just had that conversation. I did not almost run you off the road.
That's why has cameras in it. So
Okay.
you guys are going to pay for this.
That's fine. Mr. Kern, I apologize. I really do. And this is on body cam, alright? This is, the sergeant's telling me to do this, so listen, I'm just doing what I'm told to do, alright?
Afterwards, the driver was released from handcuffs, but the sergeant insisted on pursuing charges. The first officer apologized to the driver, stating she was just following orders. The driver expressed his intention to take legal action against both officers and the police department, citing violation of his rights.
Here's your property.
Hold on, let me get this in.
Sure.
Hey, just put your one man.
Some janky rusty ass stuff.
Right.
You want to sign or are you going to refuse? All right. I'm going to give you a copy of it.
You guys violated my rights. You know it.
Well, we'll all be in court.
Ultimately, the driver received a citation and a court date for obstruction. However, just 11 days later, the prosecutor filed a motion to dismiss the case due to a lack of evidence. The driver plans to proceed with a civil lawsuit against the officers and the department.